And images of beauty in a time of grief. We'll talk to two of the lensmen behind these photos, which show the aftermath of the Indian Ocean tsunami. Don't go away. Now, you probably remember the tsunami that devastated communities all around the Indian Ocean 10 years ago. How those communities have rebuilt their lives has been captured in a photo exhibition put together by photojournalists and the Singapore Red Cross.
And the Red Cross helped survivors in Indonesia, Sri Lanka and the Maldives, supported by the largest donation it had ever received, and that's $89 million from the Singapore government and members of the public. Now, the photos on show for 2 weeks at the National Library.
Well, two of the photographers whose images are featured join us tonight. Carlo Heathcote and Irvin Tan, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Carlo, let's start with you. You work with the Red Cross. I see you have the Red Cross badge pinned firmly to your chest. How did you end up documenting your experience in the photos when you actually went out to help in the Maldives?
Yes, I do a lot of research, which a lot of journalists do. It's important to get to understand the story. And my feeling that I got after doing my research was very different from what I expected. Like many people, I had a great opportunity to actually have my honeymoon in the Maldives in 2004, so 1 month before the tsunami struck. And it was picture perfect. It was all the cliches. It was golden sands, blue water, pina coladas. And then obviously we didn't have children. And at the time I was working for Oxfam, which is a UK humanitarian organization, and I went back to Oxford and we managed a fundraising. But now, when I was doing the research, I started to read the first-hand accounts. I started to look at the documentaries where you see interviews with parents who lost their children. You see people who were just standing there mesmerized. And I think it's because I am a parent now. I saw these pictures of children in the whirlpool waters, and I know that my 3-year-old can't swim, would stand no chance. And I had a knot in my stomach. So that, I think, helped me to better approach when I went back in 2014, 10 years later. And I appreciated the fact that the tsunami it traveled at a speed of 800 kilometers an hour along the ocean bed. It had the force of 1,500 Hiroshima atomic bombs. This is a massive amount of force. And if you look at it, it took 20 minutes to get from its epicenter to Sumatra. It took 40 minutes to get to Banda Aceh. It took 60 minutes to get to Phuket in Thailand, 120 minutes to get to the coast of India and Sri Lanka, and 180 minutes to get to the Maldives. I didn't appreciate that at the time, and now I do.
Carlo, what happened clearly had a deep impact on you. Can you perhaps share with us, some of the stories that, particularly affected you?
Yes. I studied economics when I was at university, and we hear claims about numbers and costs of loss of production. And what really struck me, apart from the human stories, is I looked at the economic impact, because that's the one that does last 10 years, does last 20 years. And if you were to put the numbers into something which may affect us, I myself, at one point in my career, I have been unemployed. And the economic loss suffered by the Maldives is equivalent of the whole population of the country, or any country, going unemployed overnight for 6 whole months. Now you can imagine what that would have effect on savings, etc. And I tried to meet people who had their employments and their jobs damaged. The 2 major industries, tourism fell by over 50% in the 6 months that followed. And the second major industry, which is fishing, that suffered enormously as well.
Now, Irvin, let's bring you in on this. I believe you were in Sri Lanka in 2010.
Yep.
I believe, how did you end up there?
At that point in time, I was a volunteer at the Singapore Red Cross, so that was the first overseas mission that I participated in. They had just built the Singapore-Sri Lanka Friendship Community College, which is a college for women. So I was there to cover the event, the opening of the college itself. And so together with Mr. Tito Abah, the chairman of the Singapore Red Cross.
So, Irvin, we understand that you actually ended up chronicling one of the victims. I mean, can you tell us perhaps who she is and why her specifically?
Okay, her name is Sanjeevani. She's 27 this year. She lost her husband, 10 years ago when she was 17. They were only married 2 months before that. And she was pregnant with a daughter. Background is that until now, her daughter still does not know that her father, the real father, perished during the tsunami. So Sanjeevani, essentially, I met her through a local guide that brought me to the compound, the project in which they were living in. So these houses were built by the Singapore Red Cross as well. And the first thing that struck me was her immaculate garden. Most of them, the grass was dying, very little trees, shrubs and all. But hers was filled with rambutan trees, mango trees, lime trees, everything. And so there was an obvious tendency towards, life and craft in this household. And that's why I gravitated towards it as well.
Now, I believe we're going to bring up one of your photos from that experience with Sanjeevani. I believe that's the one on the screen now. Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Okay, if you look closely, if you can see, that's a photo album that Sanjeevani has kept since she was a little girl. So all her childhood memories and all these things all have gone into the leaflets as well. The little writing down there is in between 2 leaves. One is on this side is her sister, on the right side, and then on the left side is a photo of her husband, or the first husband at least.
Very, very personal stuff.
Yeah, and it says, "I wish that I could love you in every day and in every life." Yeah.
So, gentlemen, both of you have recently returned to both of those countries that you went to. What was that like for you?
For me, I was really struck by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ali. Mr. Ali had a stroke to the right side, so he is unable to work, unable to walk. And one of the programs which the Singapore Red Cross has funded is the provision of 2 ambulances. And also the Singapore Red Cross has funded the training of the first aiders, volunteer first aiders at the Maldivian Red Crescent. And every week they go, basically they cradle Mr. Ali in their arms, they carry him down the spiral staircase in the apartment and they take him to the hospital in the ambulance. And one of the stories I take away from that is you never know how good it is that your life is until actually something just takes it away. And I was glad that I could see that we could help in a little way, but I'm also far more aware of how lucky we are and fortunate we are.
Irvin, can I ask you, what do you think you've taken away from this entire experience?
The most important, life lesson I've learned is that help doesn't just stop when you give aid or money. From different people, your involvement can continue as well. And it doesn't just have to stop with monetary aid. That's what I hope.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in to share your experiences with us here on Singapore Tonight. We've been speaking with Carlo Heathcote and Irvin Tan.